Now we will cover two more topics. One is how to apply this mining method to FP growth tree, and then we will see some pattern evaluation techniques. So we have seen the a priori algorithm, some of the improvement in the a priori algorithm, and then we have seen a much more better technique to compute the frequently occurred items in a database, that is FP growth. Okay, so we have learned how to construct the FP growth tree from the database. Now we are going to see that how we can mine data, or rather how we can mine the frequent pattern growth from the tree. Fine. So here the idea is we will recursively grow frequent patterns by patterns and database partition. Okay, and we will see that how we are growing it and how we are applying this mining technique to find out the frequent pattern. Fine. So the method says for each frequent item construct its conditional pattern base and then its conditional FP tree. Now how to construct this conditional pattern base and then how to construct its conditional FP tree, that is our goal of study here, right? So we are going to learn these techniques, and then we will repeat this process on each newly created conditional FP tree, and we will stop then when the until the FP tree is empty or it contains only single path. Means using a single path, if we can generate all the sub patterns, we will stop there. But rather not sticking to this definition, I think the process will be clear if we just cite an example. So here I have explained the process which we are going to follow in generating this pattern. You will see the total workout example in the next slides. So here, if you remember the total tree that what we have grown, here we are going to start with I5 now, which is a last item. So why we are starting with it, as we proceed with the lecture, the concept will be clear. So let us revisit the tree again. So if you remember, the tree was like this, and here you can see that I5 can be we can reach I5. You can see if you follow the the leaf level, I5 can be generated using I1 and I2 if we follow the first path, that is the leftmost path, and I5 again can be generated using one more path. You can see here the path adjacent to that leftmost path, that is I3, I1 and I2, right? So these are the two choices left with I5. So let us go back to our method. So here what it is doing, you can see here that see that I5 occurs in two FP tree branches of the figure which we have seen. The paths are, we have seen just now, that is I2, I1, I5, and the counting is 1 because this combination is existing for once only in the total tree. And again I2, I1, I3 and I5, this counting or this combination is available again once, that's why the frequent count is 1 here. Right, so therefore if we consider that I5 is a suffix and we have to treat with the prefix only because our goal is to reach at I5, so we will means we are not going to consider that in the path because that is our suffix, and we are going to work with the prefixes only. So here the two prefixes are, one is I2 and I1 pattern, that is the counting is 1. Another pattern is I2, I1 and I3. Now see, we are going to find out the condition. These are two conditional pattern base, right? So this is the way in which we are going to construct, or in which we are going to find out the conditional pattern base. And using this conditional pattern base as a transaction database, so we are going to construct I5's conditional FP tree. Now it will consist a single path. Now see how the path is being generated. Since there are two possible ways of reaching I5, you can see among that two possible chains, I2 occurs twice, I1 occurs twice. Remember I am discarding the suffix part, that is I am not talking of I5 because we are reaching I5 only. So here I2 occurs twice, I1 occurs twice, and there is no chance of including I3 because if you remember our example, our minimum cutoff was 2, right? So if we set minimum support count as 2, so definitely we are going to discard I3. So can you see here the pawning happens here? We are just pawning out I3, right? So here I2 occurs twice, I1 occurs twice. So this is my FP tree, conditional I5 conditional FP tree, which can be done in using a single path. Okay, now this single path generates again two combination, because what are the combinations? See, if we just can reach from I2 to directly I5, its count is 2, or from I1 to I5 its count is 2, and if we include both I2, I1 and I5, its count again will be 2, because the all of their count is 2 here only. Okay, so these are the combinations. Okay, so these are the combinations. I have generated the path. Now if you just combine among themselves, you are going to get the different combinations. Similarly, just follow the diagram and do the same thing for I4 as well. Okay, next here we have seen that how I3 has been generated and others. Okay, so let us now see the total whatever it is being generated. If we consider it for both I1, I3, I4 and I5, remember we are not doing anything for I2, because it was the mostly occurring frequent patterns, and it was directly connected to the root node, right? So here we are not going to generate that one, the conditional base pattern base for that I2 node. So see here that we have successfully generate the conditional pattern base for I5, I4, I3 and I1. So we have seen how to generate the conditional pattern base. From that we have learned how to find out the conditional FP tree, and we have find out the combination of different what are the combinations possible. Now let's see at the diagram. The conditional node of I3 means the conditional FP tree of I3 is being shown here. You can see here this is the conditional FP tree for the node I3. Using that pattern you can draw it of your own, right? So this kind of tree is going to get exist for all the nodes for which we have calculated this conditional pattern. Okay, so this is the mining technique of FP tree. In this way we can mine the FP tree. Okay, now we will see some of the pattern evaluation methods. Firstly, we are going to look what is the drawback of including only support and confidence in generating the association rule, how it can lead us to the to a negative path, or how it can distract us from generating, means going to the right track, right? So we are going to see that if we can incorporate correlation, if we have learned correlation in our first module, how to calculate the correlation we have seen there. If you forget, just you may revisit that video. For now you will just remember that correlation comes up with a decision that this two item set, or this say one item set is dependent on another item set in how much extent. If they are strongly correlated, we are going to get value greater than 1. If they are not, negatively means dependent, if dependency of one item with the another is not going to be successful, then we are going to get a negative value of correlation. And if it is equals to 1, then both of the items are independent. No, means they are neither negatively dependent, they are positively dependent, right? So we are going to incorporate this correlation method as well. So before that we will see some of the means some of the drawbacks of just incorporating support and confidence here. So here see, although minimum support and confidence thresholds help weed out or exclude the exploration of a good number of uninteresting rules, many of the rules generated are still not interesting to the users. Okay, so here our goal is to just see an example, right, how this means whatever we are we are stating here that how it can it can mislead user, whenever we are just putting some minimum support level or minimum confidence level. Okay, my association rule is strong enough. What we have learned so far is if my association rule can reach above the minimum support level or minimum confidence level, and we have learned that how we are going to calculate it. If you remember, if we calculate the probability of occurrence of both say item set A and item set B, that is the probability of A union B, then we can calculate the support, and to calculate the confidence we are going to take help of the conditional probability, that B condition A, right? So what is the chance of or confidence level of purchasing item B if A is purchased? So that was our main goal. So using that conditional probability we could calculate confidence, and using both support and confidence, if my support and confidence can meet my minimum requirement, and then my association rule we claimed it to be strong. But here interestingly we are going to see an example where it is fine, both the association rule which we are going to generate it is easily it is easily just satisfying that minimum criteria, but again it will mislead us. So let us just see the example. You can see here just assume that all electronics database which we are working on from the beginning, right? So here say we are going to calculate the purchase of computer games and video. Okay, now we are assuming game refers to the transaction containing computer games and video refers to the transaction containing the video. Okay, now we are assuming there are total 10,000 transactions, and we have analyzed. Okay, so whatever we have analyzed, whatever maybe the total transaction is, we are going to focus on this 10,000 transaction. That means this transactions has been analyzed, and out of those 10,000 we have seen that 6,000 of the customer transaction include computer games, fine, and 7,500 or 7,500 include videos, and 4,000 has purchased both computer games and videos. Now suppose the data mining program we for discovering association rule, here we are setting up the minimum support to be 30% and minimum confidence to be 60%. Now see here, using this we want to determine if X buys computer games, what is the chance of or rather if we can designate this association rule to be strong or not. Okay, so the chances of buying videos, those who are buying computer games, and we have to calculate this as we have to find out whether this is strong or not. Fair, the minimum criteria, that is the minimum support is 40% and confidence is 66%. Okay, so for here it is 66%, fine. So let us see it is 66%, okay, not 60%. Let us stick to it, right? So now see here that support value is what you can see here, that total those who are purchasing both computer and games are, what is the number, 4,000, right? So out of 10,000 transaction we can see that 4,000 people are purchasing both. Okay, so here the support becomes 40%, so it is satisfying my criteria, right? And now see the confidence is what, out of how much value who have just purchased this computer, it is 6,000, right? Computer games 6,000. So out of the 6,000, 4,000 are moving again, approaching towards the video, right? So confidence means what is the probability of buying videos after buying the computer. So it will depend on the total set of person those who are purchasing the computer game. So it is 6,000, and those who are buying both, it is 4,000. So 4,000 by 6,000 is coming to 66%. Okay, so here the confidence level is 66%. Again it is satisfying our criteria because minimum confidence level was 60%. Fine. Now see how it is misleading. You can see here that it is showing the value to be 66%. However, the chances of getting this videos sold, right, you can see here it is 500 out of 10,000, so it is 75%. So actually if we consider this data, original purchase data, it is 75%, but if we just impose our association rule on it, it is getting reduced to 66%. So here the chances of selling my videos is becoming lesser if we apply this technique. If we do not apply it, it would have been 75%. So where is the mistake? What we have done, that we have not measured what is the relation, what is the dependency factor, right? So whether actually purchasing of videos is depending on purchasing of computer games or not. So is it strongly correlated? Is it positively correlated that whenever one is purchasing computer games, they are going to purchase the videos? Fine. So or the thing is totally different, that it is ultimately not depending on whoever is purchasing the computer games, but my video selling is much higher, right? So we are not going to impose the dependency on it. So what we have to do, there is a very easy technique, for finding out that how they are related, that is correlation. To see here, that here instead of just sticking to only two factors, that is support and confidence, again we have incorporated one more technique, that is called correlation. You can see here that whenever we are generating this association rule, whether A is associated to B, we are going to keep this support and confidence. Again we are going to put one more value, that is correlation. Let us just see that what is the technique called. Here lift, the name of the technique is lift, is a simple correlation measure, and the occurrence of item set A is independent of the occurrence of item set B if probability of A union B is equals to probability of A dot probability of B. So if you remember, this is the principle of mutual exclusion, and here the both A and B, occurrence of A and B are not dependent on each other if this happens, right? And so from the definition, so lift of AB will be calculated using this formula, probability of occurrence of both A and B together, and divided by probability of occurrence of A multiplied by probability of occurrence of B. Fine. So using this we can find out, let us see that how then we are going to find out that which rule to incorporate, which rule to not. Say if this equation, that is 6.8, the equation of lift, it is less than 1, then the occurrence of A is negatively correlated with the occurrence of B. Just see here, it is totally acting like the rule of correlation. So if you remember the correlation property, so if when we were finding out the correlation between two different item sets, so if the correlation between them comes to be lesser than 1, then they are negatively correlated. If it is positive value, that is not positive, rather greater than 1, then they are strongly correlated, that is the purchase of B is strongly dependent on purchase of A, right? And if it is negative, then purchase of B actually will never be successful if we follow the purchase of A, right? So if we keep B separated from A, that will be better in perspective of sale, right? So and if it is 1, that there is no relation between A and B actually is okay. And you may get confused between this negative relation and no relation. You can see here that whenever we have imposed this rule, that is using support and confidence factor, you have seen that actually the probability of purchasing video are 75%, but whenever we have imposed the rule, it has decreased down to 66%. So what it is doing, it is provoking us to move to the negative direction, right? So it is provoking us to distract from our correct decision. So it is just doing one negative thing on the total scenario, right? But if it is independent, it would have no effect on it. So this is the difference actually. So negative correlation means it will provoke us to move to a to a wrong path, and strongly correlated means it is directing us to the right path, and it is independent means it is not provoking us, it is not helping us, it is doing nothing, right? So if you now see what it is doing, so equation 6.8 is equivalent to this equation only, or you can convert it to this one as well. So equation 6.8 was probability of A union B divided by probability of A multiplied by probability of B, and it is, if you just write it in this manner, probability of A union B divided by probability of A, and that then into or multiplied by 1 by probability of B, then this probability of A union B by probability of A is nothing but conditional probability, that is B condition A, and this one. Now B condition A is what? My confidence, right? We have learned. So it will be confidence of A implication B, and probability of B here will be only the support, right? Support of B. So it can be modified. So if you are having the support or confidence, if you have calculated it, you can put it and find out the lift value, right? See here, we have seen one example, and we are going to find out the probability of each and everything. Here the two tables are given. Firstly, we are going to find out the probability of game. You can see here in the first table, that is table 6.6, the total game value is 4000 plus 2000, that is 6000, right? And total transactions is 10,000. So the probability of only game is 0.6. Similarly, probability of video, okay, you see in the row, the first row, 4000 plus 3500, it comes to 7500. So 7500 by 10,000, it comes to 0.75. Similarly, the probability of purchasing both game and video. So game and video, you can see the first sale, right? Video cross game, it is 4000. So 4000 by 10,000 is 0.4. And so if you using this, we can find out the lift value. So see, the lift value is coming to 0.89, right? Just put it in the formula, you are going to calculate this lift value. Can you see the value is lesser to 1? So we can see that it is negatively correlated. So the correlation factor between them is negative. So if we just implement a rule, or if we just put a rule on them that okay, my purchasing of video is depending on the purchasing of the computer games, it is not so. It will lead us to a wrong path, right? So we are not going to treat them as the two items which is having a good correlation among them. It is not like so. So we are not going to impose the rule on them, right? Now see another factor. You can use the correlation analysis, that is chi-square correlation. If you remember, observed minus expected whole square divided by expected and summation of all. So here the observed value is 4000 from the table, and expected was 4500, right? So here for each of the value, okay, so for each of the value means that from the table itself you can see here that in the table 6.7 we have written both the value, that what is the expected value, what is the original value. So we have learned how to calculate this one. Whenever we have learned this chi-square relationship, how we are going to calculate the values. If you have forgotten, just go to that lectures, you can remember, okay, you can just memorize it, or you can just revise the technique. Fine. So these are the values, original value and expected value written there. So we have just used it for all the 4 blocks, that is the chances of purchasing video on purchasing the game, chances of not purchasing video, and chances of purchasing the game, and all the 4 combinations. So we have added up all the 4 combinations, and it is coming up to 555.6. okay, now because the value of chi-square is greater than 1 and the observed value of the slot is 4000 and it is less than the expected value, so it is again negatively correlated, right? And this, in this way, using the lift, we can calculate the value, means we can calculate whether actually that this only the support and confidence measure are enough or not. And we can, if we use one more parameter, that is correlation, using that we can find out actually that whatever support and confidence level we are setting, whether it is enough or not, we can change it, okay, as per our need. And with this we are going to end up our module 2, that is, these are the techniques using which we can generate the frequent occurring pattern. And from the next class we are going to start our classification algorithm, right? It is, we are going to cover the clustering after the completion of the classification algorithm. Thank you.